My reading journal is the one from my lineup that I definitely have the most fun with, and part of that fun comes from trying new ideas and layouts. If you are looking to add something new to your reading journal, or start one altogether, then this video is for you. To bring you some awesome reading journal ideas, I went hunting for tips from some of my favorite reading journal creators. As we're going through, if you're like, hey, I like their style, I've listed out all of our featured creators in the pinned comment and description box, so that you can jump down there, check them all out, and give them a subscribe. Without further ado though, let's have a look at the ideas.
Hey everyone, it's Tori from Creative Minds Coffee Grinds, and an absolute must-have in my reading journal is my star rating guide. When I started to keep a reading journal, I knew I wanted to feature my own review of the books I read and what I would rate them out of 5 stars. But I found it was sometimes hard to figure out how many stars to give books when they were kind of an in-between rating for me, like anywhere between I loved it and couldn't put it down to I absolutely despised this book. So that's when I devised this rating system that works really well for me and fits the vibes of the books I read pretty well. You can see here if I rate a book 5 stars, that means I cried and or got chills and would 100% read it again. 4.5 stars means I loved it, but one thing pissed me off, whether it was something from the plot or sometimes the writing wasn't for me. 4 stars could mean one of two things, either I thought it would be a 5-star read but I got disappointed, or I thought it was going to be 3 stars and I was pleasantly surprised. 3.5 stars means I appreciated the vibes but I wasn't in love. 3 stars means it was fine and I apparently liked it enough to finish it without considering to DNF. 2 stars means I held out hope for way too long and it sucked. And 1 star means I thought the book was torture from beginning to end. This rating scale mainly applies to fiction for me, not so much nonfiction or memoirs, but I think it could still work in those cases. I just don't read a lot of that. But either way, if you're keeping a reading journal, I would highly recommend coming up with your own rating scale or system that works best for you.
Hi, my name is Beth from Guess I'm Beth, and thank you so much to Jess for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful collaboration. I'm going to be sharing a date tracking method that I use in my reading journal. I create these little book cards to look like classic library checkout cards. I've designed mine on my computer and printed them out, but in the past I used to make them by hand, so if you're feeling particularly crafty, you can absolutely make these yourself. You can customize them to include any and all information that you might find relevant, but I have space for the book title, the author's name, and plenty of space to add in the dates read. Every day I spend reading a particular book, I'll add that date down on the card. You can always just write it in, but I like to add the date with a date stamper to keep up that library card look. You can incorporate these book cards into your journal in a few different ways. In the past, I've added them to my monthly cover pages, so they align with the things that I've read that month. More recently though, I've included them at the end of my journal as a little flip through. That way I can see everything I read in the year all in one glance. If you write book reviews in your reading journal, you can glue them directly to the page. That way you have all the information of that particular book all on the same spread. A fun bonus that comes with these book cards is that they also double as bookmarks. Before you're ready to add them to your journal, you can use them in their respective book to mark your place. Thank you once again to Jess for having me on her channel. Happy journaling, everyone.
Hey journal besties, I'm Manda Made, and a strategy I have for making a really stunning reading journal is to choose a theme. This could be as simple as sticking to a specific color palette, choosing an open-ended concept like celestial, nature, or academia inspired, or maybe you allow your favorite books to inspire you into a specific niche, like I did with my pirate theme journal for 2025. Having a theme is going to help your annual trackers and challenges feel cohesive and original to you. You can use the same concepts as everyone else, but adding that little special touch makes your pages feel unique. Your theme will also help with decision fatigue and overspending on supplies. Let the theme narrow down your color palette, font, writing styles, and maybe invest in just a few special supplies that you can use in a variety of spaces, and mix in the things that you already have that correlate to those new supplies. Let your theme inspire new ideas. I may have gone a little overboard, forgive my pirate pun, but I decided to take my typical titles for each page and pirate code them to make them more thematic. I also let the theme inspire 2 new reading challenges, which involve me battling a kraken, aka tackling my TBR, and sailing the 7 seas, which is just a spin-off of the Read Around the World challenge. Whatever the theme may be, I hope it sparks creativity and ignites a passion for reading every time you open your journal.
Hello besties, my name is Tori from Tori Between Pages. I do bullet journal content mostly for my reading journal and bookish content, and today we're going to go through one of my absolute favorite spreads. It is my series tracker. Let's get to it. I'll show you the page that I already have set up, and then we actually need to add to it because I have started more book series that I need to keep track of and keep on top of. So let's get to it. It's one of my favorite spreads to update. It makes me feel so productive. You know how when you finish a book on Goodreads and you go to mark it as finished and like put your star rating in there? This spread gives me that boost of endorphins that I need to continue finishing series, because I think I'm in the middle of like over 20 at this point. This is my current series tracker. We just need to add on to this spread, and we have, I think, 5 more to add. I like to have the name of the series at the top, and then I like to see the names of the books underneath. There are some on here that are not completed series, like Guardians of the Dawn is a planned 4-book series. So I just leave an empty space for when we get the title of that remaining book. And then I'll just color them in as I go, as I read that book, to keep track of where I am in the series. My tips for this spread, I like this to be very organized. I'm gonna keep adding to it for the rest of the year, so I like it to be fairly structured. I only put series tracker across the left side. That way I have a little bit more room on the right side for additional series or potentially longer series. I have a little bit more room on the page. And then my spacing, I do 1 space down from the title, and that's where I start to write the series names. So this one we have Sparrow Falls, then I do another line space, and then I start the boxes for the book series. Try to save incomplete series towards the bottom of the page. That way you don't get yourself into a sticky situation. I find that my handwriting gets worse as I get lower on the page, so I try to just block off those last 2 to 3 rows. And that is my series tracker, friends. And thank you so much to Jess for letting me participate. This was so fun.
Hey friends, it's Anna Bruns here. We all know that amazing feeling of finding a new favorite author, so my reading journal tip for you guys is to make a spread listing out a favorite author's backlog so you can track all their books as you read through them. I have a little bit of a complicated example here, but this could be as simple as searching for all your author's published works, printing out the book covers, and gluing them on the page. You can title the page with the author's names. My example here is for Brandon Sanderson, and you can arrange the books in whatever order makes sense for you. Sanderson has a lot of interconnected fantasy series and standalones, so I've arranged them here by series and also by the reading order I want to read all these books in. But you can list out an author's books by publication date, the books in order of what you're most interested in, whatever way you want to arrange them. Lastly, you want to give yourself a way to check off the books as you go. I drew an empty 5-star under each of mine so I can keep track of my ratings for each one, and it also serves as a way of marking the book read when I fill them in. I think favorite author pages are a great way to personalize your journal, but are also handy to look at whenever you're not sure what to read next, because picking up a book from a tried and true author is an easy way to pick a great book for your next read.
Hi team, I'm Jess or JashiiCorrin, and my reading journal idea is to actually record not just what you're reading in your reading journal. When I first started my reading journal, it was because I had finally gotten to a point where I felt like I was reading enough to make it worthwhile, but then, because I was enjoying it so much, it actually made me not so inclined to do other types of leisure, like watching movies, playing games, watching TV shows. I got into this really odd mindset where, because I wasn't going to record any of that stuff in here, and I was enjoying my reading journal so much, it felt like those tasks were just not worthwhile. To combat that feeling though, what I eventually decided to do was record not just books in my reading journal, but also movies, TV shows, and games that I was enjoying too. The format that I used for these these would be pretty much the same, but it just meant that I could capture any memories that I had with those types of media as well. Not only did this mean I got to spend more time in my reading journal, because I was going to be recording more information, but it also meant that I was better able to remember the media that I was consuming, not just through reading. One of the best things about having a reading journal, at least for me, is being able to remember what I read better than what I would be able to otherwise, and I found that a similar thing has happened for anything else I've been recording in here as well. While I initially started that practice in my first reading journal, I've also continued it into my current one. Even though the style of my layouts has changed significantly, it's still a lot of fun to record any kind of thoughts or memories I have from those other media types. For instance, here we have a spread on an anime series I was watching. I have layouts for TV shows, and also some from movies and games. Especially if you don't feel like you read enough to warrant having a reading journal, including other types of media in here could be a good fix.
Hi everyone! I'm Cozy with Katy, or Biblio Katy, and my idea to share with you is my favorite spread to create, and that is the yearly bookshelf tracker. This spread is an excellent way to visualize all of the books that you've read in a year, especially if you read a lot of ebooks or audiobooks, or my favorite, books from the library. I like to get creative and use stickers to make the bookshelf really look and feel like a little library that fits with my journal theme and aesthetic. But you could also keep it really simple with minimal decoration if that's not your thing. This is the empty bookshelf tracker that I'm using for 2025, and I track by 1 to 5 star ratings using the little bubbles of this cauldron as my key. I've seen others track by genre or format, so you can really customize this spread to your liking. Here's how my 2024 yearly tracker ended up looking. I did a Purple Witch's Library theme, and I used this shelf of potion bottles as my tracker. And I like to create a little bookmark that I store in the back of my journal to remind me of the exact marker colors for each rating. I use bookshelves a lot throughout my journal outside of this spread, and one of those ways is for TBRs or reading challenges. So I set up little shelves with the book prompt, and then I print and paste the actual book covers onto the shelves. And of course, I like to decorate to match the theme of that spread. And then here is a combination of the two ideas. On the left is a continuation of my yearly bookshelf tracker, and then on the right was my end of the year TBR. So I just wanted to show you how you can use bookshelves and customize these ideas as you need for what works with your brain and in your journal. I hope that's helpful.
Hello everyone, my name is Raquel from Lunar Inspiration, and today the reading journal idea that I have for you is a reading challenges page. Now, like most people that own a reading journal, I have the normal yearly challenge for the amount of books that I like to read. But this is kind of like mini challenges within the challenge. You know how in video games you have like the main goal, the main mission, but then you also have side quests? These are my side quests when it comes to my reading challenge for 2025. So for example, I want to branch out a little bit more in this year, and I want to be a little bit more intentional when it comes to my reading. I want to read a little bit more nonfiction, so I have a goal for 20 for that. I would like to experience a little bit more with audiobooks, so I have 20 for that, because I also found that I like audiobooks last year. I have 20 books that I own before 2025 because I have way too many books in my shelf that I haven't read. I have 10 Shakespeare plays because I studied Shakespeare in college and I like to branch out a bit more because I didn't study that many. And like 10 Portuguese books because I'm Portuguese. You know, kind of challenge myself a little bit more, and reading 10 big books because I want to do that. Just to challenge myself a little bit more, to set mini goals within the goal that will actually help me to reach the main goal, and to make it a bit more interesting while I'm reading, to make sure that I have a good year of reading in 2025.
Hi everyone, it's Lucy from Little Miss Macaron, and my reading journal tip is opening book covers. Book cover printouts are one of my absolute favorite elements to include and incorporate into my reading journal. I use them in so many of my spreads, from TBRs to reading wrap-ups to book review pages. I think they are such a fun and easy way to both add some color and visual interest to a page while also making spreads a little bit more well-structured and easier to reference. This is a spread that I made for my favorite books of 2024, and because these books books are my favorites, I wanted to do something special, and I am so happy with the result. The benefit to adding any sort of interactive element to a journal spread, a Dutch door, or a flip out is that on top of it being just a little bit extra fun, you're also giving yourself more space on each page. You can really add whatever you want on the inside of these flaps. You can do a little book review with your thoughts, you can add some book quotes, or what I decided to do is to add some fan art collages that I found off of Pinterest to kind of create almost like a little mood board on the inside of each book flap. I think this spread just turned out so fun. The novelty of getting to open these never wears off. You could use these opening covers in TBR pages, book review pages, reading wrap-ups, or any other spread that you would normally include a printout book cover. Why not make it 3D and interactive? All I did to make these is I just printed out my typical cover, and then on a piece of cardstock that was the same height as one of the book covers but double the width, I just stuck it on, folded it in half, and then I was able to attach it directly onto the page and add some little fan art and collages on the inside. My tip would definitely be though to use a thinner paper than I used. I used cardstock for these opening flaps, and it did end up making my journal quite thick and a little bit hard to close. So if you are planning on doing opening book covers, I would definitely recommend like a printer paper or something along those lines. If you're looking for a way to just kind of switch up your normal spreads, then I think this is a really fun element to incorporate into your reading journal.
Hi, I'm Kat from Peace, Love, Plan and Read, and my reading journal tip is to use book covers or spaces for book covers to motivate you to read your physical TBR, something that I know many of us are on a journey for in 2025. One example of this is for my 25 books in 2025. I have printed out the book covers of the main books I want to read for this challenge. To do this, I just take the book covers from Goodreads, I put them into a Google Doc, size them at the size I want, print them out on sticker paper that I buy on Amazon, hand cut them and stick them in. And you'll see here that this is just a great way for me to then track how many stars I gave each of the books and a reminder to myself of which books I had put on this challenge. Another example here is my 12 recommendations from 12 friends. I've gone for bigger books for this, but the principle is the same. The covers are here to remind me which books I've decided to use for this challenge. Another way that you can do this is using space for book covers that you will print out once you've actually read the book. So this is my physical TBR spread, and it does go on for a few pages because I have quite a few books. And once I have read a book, I print off the book cover. This is size 1 inch in case you want to recreate this if you have an 8x8 journal. And I have all of my books written out, and then I just find the corresponding book and stick it in. It's a really great way to see how many books I have to read on my physical TBR, but also to motivate me to want to fill all the book covers in.
Hi friends, it's Em of Plan with Em, and today I'm going to be talking about some ways to make a really graphic looking TBR, as well as some tips for how to make sure that what's on your TBR is actually the books that you want to read. So for me, I generally will put my little icons or graphics in the center and kind of branch out from there, because that really gives me a ton of space for a TBR. I love to read. I'm reading a lot. So I use apps like Libby and NetGalley and things like that to sort of keep a track of what's coming out, where my holds are at, things like that. But you can also do it on one page rather than, having a double page spread, especially if, you're doing this in your regular journal and you just are trying to add a little bit more reading into your life. I like to do it with fun colors and hand lettering just to sort of, bring a little joy to it. I will make a list of all of the books that I want to read, right? As well as some of the books that are coming out during that month that I'm sort of maybe obligated to give a review for a publisher, or that is a library hold that I forgot about that is going to be coming and I'm going to be reading it, so I want to have a little checkbox to check. You can do the same thing on a single page. You can fill up the rest of the space with decor, or you could even sort of split it down the middle and do something that way. This should be a really painless way to make the list of books that you want to read, and then you can spend less time making the TBR and more time reading. I like to listen to audiobooks while I make my bullet journal spreads, because then it's really just like a double whammy.
Hey guys, my name is Lenka from RyeMi Art, Bujo and Books, and my favorite addition to a reading journal is a calendar where I mark days I read my books. I think it's great not only as a visual addition to your journal, but it can store lots of information as well. There are many ways you can do this calendar, and my favorite is using different color for each book and also writing the book title on top of the line. But it can also stay blank as well. In that case, it's great to have a list of books you read nearby. I like to color in only days I actually read a certain book. That way I have a better idea about my reading habits. When I first used this calendar in my layouts, I used to mark every single day between starting and finishing a book, no matter if I read it that particular day. One small thing that made this less confusing or overwhelming is in the way I color in the days. I try to keep each book in the same line, and on the first and last day of reading the book, I do not mark the whole width of the box. So, for example, here with the Onyx Storm, I marked only the small part in the February 5th, then continued on 6th and 7th, then I had a pause and read it later, so I colored in those lines fully. I did not finish it in February, so the line will continue in March as well. There are many ways how to approach this, and if you add this to your reading journal, I am sure you will find your own style.
Hi friends, my name is Tori or Torey Ramos here on YouTube, and my planning tip for your reading journal is a few layout ideas for tracking your statistics. Statistics is one of my most favorite things to track in my reading journal, so I've got a few spread ideas here to share with you. The first one being just a regular list type format or a decorative list where you just kind of title each section and write right next to it. The next way to track your statistics would be pie graphs, which I've got an example of over here. I get most of my pie charts from Storygraph if you need a place to get some of that information. And then you can kind of just calculate your percentages and put them in a pie graph. In the middle here, I just have a circle with all of my books for the month. This is all made up numbers. A little bit easier than pie graphs is the bar graph option, which also still looks super pleasing to the eye. And this one is very, very easy to put together and fill in. And my most favorite option for tracking my statistics is a mixture of all of these. I like to add in pie graphs and then just some regular boxes, usually for the books that I've read and the pages that I've read. And then sometimes squeezing in a bar graph as well is just super aesthetically pleasing. That is the couple of options that I have for you to track your statistics in your reading journal, and I hope you found them helpful.
Hi pals, I'm Erin Smith, and my reading journal tip is all about making your reading journal sustainable in the long run. Pretty collage spreads for the books you loved are so much fun. I personally adore matching stationery to book covers and mentally living in the world of the books I love for a little bit longer after I finish reading, but it's okay not to do this for every single book you read. If you didn't love a book, or you don't feel like you own the right supplies to make a collage around its themes, or you just don't have the time right now to sit down and pour into a detailed spread, paring it back to a minimal layout can help your reading journal feel more approachable and prevent overwhelm, especially if you've been reading a lot. This is something I've always mixed into my reading journal since I started a couple of years ago. In fact, at first I was only planning to make more involved collage pages for books if I really adored them. I've definitely shifted towards a more collage-heavy approach, but I still have my moments where I don't feel enough attachment to a book, or I don't have the time to spend on my journal around other life commitments, and this is when a basic book review page like this, or this, or this, really shine. You can still track any details about the book that you'd like to, like the format you read it in, the dates you started and finished it, the genre or publication year, or your star rating, and so on, and also keep some notes about what you liked or disliked, your favorite scenes and characters and quotes, but it's going to take you a lot less time to make a page like this than a page like this. I really believe making our journals sustainable for our lifestyles is key to making them enjoyable in the long run. And this is supposed to be fun, right? So when you need to, take the pressure off yourself. and let a page or a spread be basic every now and then.
Hey, it's Chiara from Chiaras Bookish service, and I want to share how I capture the mood of the books I read into my reading journal spreads. I like creating a separate journal spread for each book, and my number one inspiration is always the book itself. I have 3 questions which help me with that. First, I think about whether there's a specific element of the book that I want to include in the spread, such as the train station from the Orient Express, lemons, scythe, or a Hogwarts acceptance letter. If nothing comes to mind, then I move on to question number 2. What kind of vibe or mood does this book have, or how did it make me feel? Is it a tranquil and wholesome vibe like Sweet Bean Paste or The Wild Robot? Or is it rather a dark academia vibe like Never Let Me Go or The Hawthorne Legacy? Whether it's witchy, gothic, mysterious, or strange, I try to find the essence of the book. Finally, if I'm still not sure where to go from there, I have one more question to ask myself. If I close my eyes and visualize the title of the book, what font do I see it in? This way, I've ended up with my nautical font for The Wicked Deep, a classic old newspaper font for A Burning, or the dramatic R for Royal Assassin. I hope these prompts help you to capture the books you read in exactly the way that you want to and give you some inspiration to get started.
Hopefully you're feeling inspired to add something new to your reading journal. I know I certainly am. And be sure to check out any of the creators that were new to you by checking out the list in the pinned comment and description box. But if you're on the hunt for even more reading journal inspiration, then this video has 100 ideas that you could include in setting yours up. A lot of those I have used to inform my own journal setups, so click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.